Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's the statistician to the stars. He has so many adjectives and nicknames, I lose track. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. I almost screwed up the intro, but I did not. You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely like keeping those conversations rolling after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Social media links, TeePublic Store, blogs, classified section, which has friends of the show such as 3FN Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and many more. The directory. Pad, how many providers are we on?
862,136.
Statisticians and stars for a reason. Who's your source?
Trust me, bro.
So that being said, leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It definitely helps the algorithm of the show. Last but certainly not least, a fantastic music section where you can hear such groups as Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor, Tom Jolu, Floodlands, and Shadow of the Robots. Basically, if it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. And if you're still using hashtags on social media, because some people are, some people aren't.
This is true.
If you are, why not use the hashtag ODPHpod? Kicking off the entertainment edition, we are recapping a highly anticipated episode of a season that has definitely got pop culture talking. And obviously, knowing who is involved, knowing what universe they are in, expectations are very, very high. And this week's episode of Daredevil Born Again had a lot of buzz behind it.
Yep.
Did the series hit its mark? That is a question we're going to deep dive into for this episode. So we are going to be talking about episode number 4, Sic Semper Systema. So if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you for checking us out. What we like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement about what we're going to be talking about. After said statement, we give you a countdown. You have to make a choice then. You either stay through the countdown and you hear spoilers, you hear theories, you hear deep dives, you hear a lot. And it might ruin it for you if you haven't seen the episode. Or you should pause it right here and then, download the episode, and then listen at your leisure and jump back in the conversation after you've caught up. So then you know what we're talking about. Then we're not ruining anything for you. Then it's a big bucket of win because then we can talk to you after the show about it. Boom. How easy do we make it, Pat?
Very easy.
So that being said, the Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio led cast really gave us a lot to talk about in this episode, airing on Disney+. So, Pad, how did the latest addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe fare for you?
I thought it was okay. You know, I wouldn't say it was the best episode of this season, but I also wouldn't say it's the worst. It's kind of in that middle. There's a conversation that takes place in this episode that I would say right now, and again, we still have another, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more episodes remaining. So there's some time. But right now there's a conversation that's had in this episode that is my early moment of the season because, holy Lord, despite the fact these two presumably haven't had any on-screen time together and other things, it doesn't look like they missed a beat, at least acting-wise and writing-wise and everything else. So that moment was probably the highlight of the entire episode for me. If you've seen the episode, you know what it is. But overall, it was okay.
I will say this. Coming off the heels of how last week's episode ended, we knew we were going to see a certain character.
Well, and plus he's been in the trailers.
Right. So it was only a matter of time.
Yeah.
And this episode gave us what we wanted. Outside of that, this was a lot of story building. So it wasn't as memorable, maybe not the home run that we were all thinking.
There were memorable moments.
Sure, to a degree, but outside of that conversation you alluded to, there really was a lot of planting some seeds for stuff later.
Yeah.
That is the only way you can say about this episode. Was it good? Yes. Was it great? No, debatable.
Bits and pieces.
Debatable. But I think for what we tuned in for, knowing how this cast has been acting, because they've been acting their you-know-what's off.
Uh-huh.
Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Deborah Van Wool, and Eldon Henson when he was there, and obviously has set a domino effect rolling on, and like everybody else, we could really name this entire cast because everybody that we know and love from the Netflix show and the new characters they've added have really been stepping the game up.
Yeah.
And I think if you're on an MCU show right now, you have to look at this and use it as motivation. Like, this is the bar that's really setting the mark.
Step your game up.
Yeah, I think a lot of those shows that are coming out really need to.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing now the slow crossover into pop culture with this. Now, we alluded to when they were on Netflix, sure, they hit that.
Yeah.
But coming back and recapturing the magic, I don't think any of us expected it to be this good right away. But here we are.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is a testament to them following the comic book elements.
Oh, sure.
So when you go into the vast Marvel Comics library for this and you really hone in on great Daredevil stories, you're going to get some great work from your actors.
Yeah.
And that's all we're seeing here. So this episode gave us one moment we're going to be really raving about and a lot of others that we have to deep dive into. So, Pad, that said, it is time to talk spoilers. So in 3, 2, 1, let's take a deep dive.
Like I said, the episode was okay. I love the conversation between Frank and Matt. That was easily the highlight of the entire episode. I thought the stuff with Fisk in the middle the beginning doing his mayoral duties was fucking hysterical.
Oh, yeah.
Especially him, because that's the part about being a mayor I feel a lot of people don't think of or might not even know. It's like, yeah, it's not just sitting in meetings and it's not just calling people and talking to things and getting your agenda done and whatever you want done. Like, there's meet and greets, there's handshaking, there's, kissing babies' foreheads. As much as that's a cliche, it's part of the job is you got to do a little bit of publicity for it. So him going to the school, listening to "We Built This City on Rock and Roll," and then cutting it off because you could tell he was not comfortable in that scene at all. And then leaving and going to the next meeting or the next engagement and hearing it again. I was like, this is phenomenal writing. I love this. It's great. So, the show and the episode had its moments where it's like, okay, this is amusing. I'm enjoying this. But overall, it was okay. And like I said, the highlight was, the conversation between Frank and Matt.
Anytime we can get John Bernthal on the show as Frank Castle, you're going to get magic. I think he has tapped into the true essence of the Punisher.
Oh, absolutely.
An unforgiving killing machine that literally has one mission, and that is kill all crime before he dies or die trying. He is who he is. He's a force of nature in the comics. It's kind of crazy to think that someone like Frank can stand toe-to-toe with some of the heavyweights of the Marvel Comics universe, pending the story.
Yeah.
But in this moment, when he's grounded in a street level and where we find him, when we find him, this is TV gold.
Yeah.
So as we're progressing through the story, we'll get there. But where we start events off is the fallout of Hector Ayala, a.k.a. the White Tiger.
And his death.
Yeah, because he was murdered after he was acquitted of his murder charges involving two dirty undercover cops in New York. Matt Murdock got him off, but Matt...
On a Hail Mary.
Well, on the Hail Mary that he revealed his secret identity.
Yep.
Where they have been building towards this anti-vigilante law in New York with Wilson Fisk.
His whole backbone of his candidacy.
Yes. So everything has been hinging on this.
Yep.
And as we have seen... Hector, who was played by the late Camar de los Reyes, who was fantastic in the role.
Yeah, he was.
He really made everybody get so behind his character that when his character was killed off on the show, it sent shockwaves. And then, more importantly, when the White Tiger was killed at point blank range, the only thing we saw was the silhouette of the Punisher logo.
Yep.
So that obviously tipped off that one Frank Castle could be involved, even though I think the majority of comic readers knew better.
Yeah, well, and I think common sense for most folks was, he didn't do it.
Right.
Unless it's your first show.
But this also gave Matt Murdock a lot of guilt, and how Charlie Cox has been processing this is he's now taken 2 very big losses in his personal life because he has been connected with Hector as a client, but starting to become more as a friend to him as his case was going on, and then obviously losing his best friend allegedly in Foggy Nelson. There's a lot of guilt that's riding around on Matt.
Right, and obviously when it comes to deaths close to you, friends, family, what have you, acquaintances, everybody processes guilt and processes that whole situation differently. Some go to therapy, which, hey, nothing wrong with that. That is a good way to go about it. Some talk to friends, some pull in close with their family. Others bury themselves in their work. And, well, Matt's certainly doing that last one.
Yeah, because he is really trying to process everything going on, and knowing that he gave up his life as Daredevil because he crossed the line. It's really kind of put a lot of conflict in his soul.
Oh, yeah.
Which this is Daredevil 101. This is what everybody tunes into and picks up the comics every week.
He's not exactly Batman. I know what to do. I know what I must do. He's like, well, like Daredevil's, well, I could do it this way, or perhaps there's this other way.
Yeah. So as it starts off, Murdock goes to the New York PD. He identifies the body.
Goes to the morgue,
Yeah, he sees the morgue, and then he runs into Ayala's niece,
who gets behind, I don't want to say enemy lines, but she gets behind the yellow tape, as it were, because she shows up after, it's been confirmed, and the doctor or whoever is working there goes, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
So clearly she's somewhere she's not supposed to be.
Yeah, Camila Rodriguez is playing Angela for this. And the scenes between those two are really starting to hit the emotions.
Yep.
Because she is, obviously devastated. Her uncle has died.
And she lays the blame entirely at Matt's feet because she's like, you did this to him. You revealed his identity.
Yeah. So this starts tearing into Matt. And rightfully so.
I mean, she's not wrong.
No.
As shitty as it might be for me to say that, this was a known consequence, and it's something we've seen in countless stories, in TV shows and cartoons and movies that, it's the whole reason Peter Parker wears the mask, that he doesn't often tell people his identity.
No, absolutely not. And this is a situation that comes with any superhero that wears a mask.
Yeah.
And especially now that Matt crossed the line, albeit the good intentions, but still the result wound up having somebody killed is now being a real focus on him.
Yeah.
And being a real, devastating weight he has to carry. But he makes the promise that he's going to bring the killer to justice.
Yep.
No matter what.
Yep.
All the while, they have been building this underlying story involving Wilson Fisk and his wife, Vanessa. And now they're in marriage counseling.
Because of course they are.
Oh, yeah. And I let Zero, who has been playing Vanessa, doing fantastic back and forth with Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk. And they start breaking down the affair that she had.
Yeah.
And this now causes Heather Glenn, who's played by Margarita Lavia, who is Matt's love interest at this time, who's doing couples therapy, to pull Vanessa aside and to ask, does she feel safe around him?
Right, and the other thing that gets asked before she's pulled out, and this is kind of, I guess, the quote-unquote homework they have for the net before the next meeting, is they have to decide, are they trying to save the marriage or are they trying to dissolve it? And I'm paraphrasing, but that's effectively what she asked.
Well, exactly, because now it's at a point where when they start deep diving a little more into the Adam whereabouts, it's alluded to that something has happened.
Yep.
But we don't know. We're just alluding, and this is where it kind of spins out.
Yep. All
the while, we do get a quick glimpse of a mysterious figure carrying a body into the subway. And now, we don't know, as far as a TV viewer, who this is, but if you read the comics, you know exactly who this is, and that is the serial killer known as Muse. So they've now officially debuted Muse on the show, and you know him from the Ron Garney and Charles Soule run. So, which we covered on Turn a Page, if anybody wants to check that episode out on Nerd Initiative YouTube.
Yep.
So all while this is going on, we do see that one person has really, dare we say, started to play outside his weight class, so to speak. And that is one Daniel Blake, who's played by Michael Gandolfini.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's out at a club with some friends, getting very, very drunk. And during this moment, he is leaking out information.
Uh-huh.
And this is the worst possible thing that young man can do.
Definitely comes off as a guy that or I should say, that got his job and his position, not because of his merits, and he's very punctual and he's very, organized, and he's great at submitting forms and taking care of things. But yeah, there's other reasons he got his job, because I sit there and watch this and go, how the hell did this guy get this job? Because he is terrible.
Well, I'm starting to see some parallels with Daniel and Victor from the Penguin. That they're unlikely candidates and way over their head for their job positions at said points.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So this is now coming right to fruition for Daniel, because he is confessing about the union moves Fisk is planning on making, a lot of the real estate deals that he's looking to do.
Yeah.
Things are now leaking out. So it's kind of crazy to see how this plays out, especially when Fisk the next day calls a meeting amongst his inner cabinet to talk about how they're going to fix the ports, because they're now having all these gang problems that are going on, and governments are now cracking down, and this is now teetering the line of the underworld and the public eye. And because of Daniel's moves, well, one B.B. Urich finds out.
And the story hits the web while Fisk is sitting in the classroom with the students singing, We built a city on rock and roll.
Which is an interesting pick, I will say, for a class.
Yeah. I mean, you could have gone with anything, Billy. It could have gone with anything, and they went with We Built a City on Rock and Roll.
I mean,
Billy Joel, I would have understood.
Something. I'm just like, I was not on my bingo card.
Yeah.
I can't imagine somebody doing that song for a school. But listen, it works. Hey.
And you can tell he's so uncomfortable in this scene, because he's the focus of attention. He's sitting at the front of the class, which was the placing of just how this scene was laid out was so bizarre. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you've got the class singing in the middle of the classroom. He's at the head of the classroom in front of the chalkboard.
Yeah.
And they're singing We Built a City on Rock and Roll. They're getting ready to do another one. All the meanwhile, you've got Daniel and the right-hand woman, or whatever her name is, the assistant.
Yeah.
Daniel sees the article from B.B. Urich, shows it to the assistant, and she just kind of rubs her temple and goes, "Oh shit!" And they're like, "We got to tell him. Like we got to tell him. We got to do this." And he was supposed to have another meeting that gets canceled immediately because of what's in the article, and calling him a union buster because, hey, well, they're dealing with a union, so not exactly a good thing. So he goes to his next meeting. Gets We Built this City, which it's Latvian Heritage Day. Which, interesting. And then he goes to a Latvian Heritage celebration, and he starts getting the song sung to him again in what I'm guessing is Latvian. At this point, I'm cracking up laughing.
Well, yeah, because it's just kind of the absurdity of the moment.
Because you can tell, and Wilson Fisk. He's not afraid to use his hands.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to squeeze some skulls, as it were. Especially if you've read the Ultimate Spider-Man run.
Oh, exactly.
From the early 2000s. And you can tell he does not want to be there, and he is not comfortable, and he wants to get out of there in any way, shape, or form.
Well, he knows at this moment, too, this is an unfortunate thing he has to do, and he's told by his inner cabinet.
His assistant, yeah.
Yeah, his assistant now at this stage, because it was Sheila Rivera, who's played by Zabina Guevara. He's now told what he has to do. Like, you have to go attend these things.
Right.
You don't want to, but
she's told. I forget what the percentage was, but she's like, "Oh yeah, this contingent of folks helped you win. I think it was like 20-something%.
Oh yeah, it was a big percentage.
It was like a big percentage. She's like, which ended up helping you swing and win the borough of Queens.
Yeah.
So they're like, she's like, you need this constituency.
Yeah.
So they get out of this meeting. All the meanwhile, he's found out about the article going into this meeting, can't do anything about it because, hey, they're walking up the stairs as he's finding out about this.
Right.
Get out of the meeting, and he's like, get everybody together now. We need to figure this out.
Mm-hmm. So this is where Blake owns up to what's happened.
Well, because, yeah, he pulls literally the entire office into his office, the whole building into his office, and he is just reaming them out, screaming, how can you do this to me? We're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to find the mole. It's about that, blah, blah. And the entire, even going into this, Blake wants to own up to it. And the assistant is like, no, you're not doing that. You're going to keep your mouth shut. We're going to get this figured. And he owns up to it. And she even goes, listen, he works under me. It's my responsibility. I'll take responsibility for it. But in a surprising twist, Fisk keeps his head. Keeps his cool.
Like I said, I think this is where this tipped me off about the Victor Penguin similarities.
Yeah.
There's just, I mean, and listen, I'm not knocking it.
Right.
I think that obviously when you have a underworld boss such as Oswald Cobblepot or Wilson Fisk, you're going to deal with this. And it's like I say, this is a very similar theme that plays out, but it makes sense. So I'm not mad about this one bit.
Right.
Because the only other counter thing that you have going on right now, and I'm not spending a ton of time talking about it, is Matt is trying to reduce a sentence for a thief.
I mean, the scene made sense when you look at one of the writers on the. I mean, it was a good sequence, and it was fun. And the reason I bring it up as a good sequence was because one of the writers was a gentleman by the name of David Feige. Don't know if there's any relation. I can dig into that in a minute. But one of the things is he is an American lawyer, legal counselor, and author. So, reason it was such a darn good legal scene was, well, a lawyer wrote it.
Right, which, I mean, it served as a point to fill the episode, but it also added more guilt onto Matt because he gets a very long, sympathetic story about why the guy is doing what he can. He can't catch a break, and it's tough to survive with all the cutbacks, and it's adding more fuel towards like this is on Fisk,
right,
for what he's done essentially, but how the system is broken and how good people get wrong sentences.
There is no relation from David Feige to Kevin Feige.
Okay. But so like I say, this is a big side plot, but it also pushes Matt and the emotions he had for Hector Ayala to go back to the scene where Ayala was killed.
Right.
And while he's around there, he winds up picking up by like a stolen or
it's like a what is it, like a whiskey bottle or
something.
It's like a small bottle of alcohol.
Right.
Well, it's empty.
It was, but it rolls into the sewer.
Yep.
And he goes to check it, and using the sound of it, he goes and finds a bullet casing.
Well, yeah, because he drops it on the ground right where the murder took place, and it rolls in a direction, and he follows it. And like you said, it goes into the storm drain. He reaches into the storm drain, finds the bottle, and then reaches around even more. And like you said, because the thing that got brought up is after the whole courtroom and reduced sentence and all that went down, he went back to the guy from the morgue and was like, hey, was there ever any bullets or shell casings found? And he goes, no. And the guy goes, no, all we got was what was on the guy and blah, blah, blah. And Matt goes, well, that's a little weird. Why isn't that there? And the guy goes, listen, why would I know? All I deal with is what they give me and what's on the guy.
Right.
So that's when he goes down this path and he starts following this and using his old noggin. And so he reaches in there and finds the bullet casing and can feel a certain logo on the shell casing.
Yep, and this is one that we're seeing pop up more and more, and is the Punisher logo that the police are using as a symbol. So Matt, during this whole thing, knows how to find Frank Castle.
Apparently he's keeping tabs.
Which makes sense. To a certain degree, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Which, knowing how, if you're operating out of Hell's Kitchen, Matt would probably know, even if he's in retirement.
Matt knows what you had for dinner last night.
So he winds up crashing into the base of one Frank Castle, and it's absolutely cinematic magic with Charlie Cox and John Bernthal.
Oh.
And you see Frank is getting questioned about his next motive, so he's still doing Punisher work. He's not in retirement by any means.
The ascensions aren't as sharp as they were, though.
Right. Well, he is still...
He's a little rough.
He's a little rough around the edges, but it's because he's plotting something big. And the thing is, he is not going out and like patrolling.
Right.
He's going hunting. Now, to who, we don't know. I have a weird feeling it could be Wilson Fisk, and he's taken his sweet time to get there, which makes sense. They've had run-ins in the past in the comics, but him taking out Wilson is very, very much a long shot here.
Yeah, not yet.
No, but
I think at some point we could see him make an attempt, but not right now.
Right, it'll be an attempt if anything. Well, we do know that there's the special presentation that's going to be coming out for Punisher at some point.
Right.
Which we know John Bernthal has a lot to do with. So I'm fully expecting it's going to have this magic. But like I say, as they start going back and forth, UC Castle is like...
He starts figuring out more about Matt than Matt knows about himself.
Yeah.
Or Matt is willing to admit.
Well, he has to deal with, the process of grief and how Castle deals with that.
I'll say if there's anybody who knows what Matt is going through, it's Frank.
Well, there's a lot of similarities in losing someone you love and the madness that it drives you to. I mean, that's why Frank did it, because he lost his family.
Right.
And that's what created the Punisher. Daredevil lost Foggy.
Yep.
So where does that leave him? And
Matt won't, and during the whole conversation, Matt won't even say his name.
Right.
And Frank the entire time is like, come on, say his name.
Yeah.
What's the harm? Say his name. And Matt just goes, I can't. I can't.
Right, because he knows there's still a part of conscience that's in Matt that hasn't dealt with this. And Frank goes, the fact that you killed Foggy and not Bullseye speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And that's the match that sets the fire off.
Well, and I think there's also a part of Matt that doesn't want to believe Foggy's gone. And that once he says, Foggy's name, it's official. Like he, in his mind, that he's gone.
Yeah. But Frank also calls out the beliefs that Matt has.
Yeah.
Because he says, instead of killing him, you send him to jail. Your best friend gets gunned down in cold blood and you don't do nothing.
And Matt counters with, he got life. I put him through the system. The system gave him life. And Frank counters with one of the coldest lines I've ever heard in television, but damn it, it was amazing. Yeah, and where's Foggy's life?
Yep.
When does Foggy get life?
Exactly. I mean, Bernthal's performance just it's mesmerizing.
Like I said, I don't know if these two have been on screen together in something since they were last on screen together with the characters or even just in general, but damn it, they didn't miss a beat.
No, I don't think they have, but I think you see when there's perfect casting.
Yeah.
And Bernthal is a perfect Frank Castle.
Yep.
Murdoch is perfect for Charlie Cox. So knowing how they tap into those characters, and there's so many great Punisher Daredevil stories throughout the history of comics.
Yeah.
There's a lot to build off of, and both of these gentlemen know that their characters inside and out. So they can ad-lib a bit, and it still comes off, and it still hits.
Oh, sure.
So as Matt leaves, because he loses this verbal war, he loses everything. It now sparks him to go back home, and after having the night with his girlfriend, he escapes to the rooftop, and he's now practicing his billy club. So essentially, Frank gave him the Captain America-esque speech to become Daredevil again and fix this. And what a world we live in that this happens.
Yeah, and we should know, too, that Matt's girlfriend is at least alluding to when he shows back up at the apartment that, like, shit's going on that he wouldn't believe even if she told him. And he's like, yeah, I'm sure you are, but, I know you can't tell me. She goes, yeah, because if I could, I'd have to kill you.
Yeah.
So she's at least alluding that, like, there's more going on here.
Well, I think that Matt is very aware of it, but knowing the factors of the police involved and knowing that where Wilson Fisk is at all times, Matt has to make some choices. And he makes the very difficult one, I guess, to a certain degree, but one that I think was naturally going to happen anyway. He starts practicing with his billy clubs.
Yep.
So while he's doing this, Wilson Fisk is having dinner. And he has a special guest with him.
Yeah, he does.
And Pat, who is that?
Adam.
Yep.
Who's pleading for his life.
Yep, who is imprisoned in a secret location, and Wilson is just having dinner in front of him.
Which looks like the same location from the trailer where we saw Wilson Fisk and Vanessa having dinner.
Yep.
So it looks like the same location.
Yeah, so it's an interesting
dichotomy because you got Frank, Frank's on the rooftop. Fisk is in, the basement.
Yeah.
So to speak. Yeah,
it's a weird ploy, but it works though for where it needs to go because as Fisk is claiming a victory, he doesn't realize what's forming. And what's forming is the return of the devil, and he does not know how to process that at this moment because he thinks he's king of New York.
Yep.
All the while, the episode ends on a very shocking moment, I guess for some if you haven't read the comics.
Right.
And that is, you see what happens when the body that is getting carried by the gentleman in white gets put on a slab. And there's a lot of intense imagery going on with this. Now, This is nothing new if you've read the comics.
Right.
So we just want to stress this. Even if you don't check out the episode Turn a Page, this is in Charles Soule and Ron Garney's run of Daredevil 11 through 14 from their 2006 run. And then we get the full shot of Muse.
Yeah.
And Muse is draining the blood from his victim that he's going to use to paint with.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a twisted artist.
Yeah.
And if you, like I say, if you read the comic, you know there's a lot to deal with the Inhumans. They're going to skip over that for this. So you can throw that right out the window.
Right.
However, I don't know what they're going to do as a substitute when they start rolling with him, but you're going to see as Daredevil comes back that's going to be the inspiration for Muse's next killing spree.
Right.
And things are going to get weird there because we're already seeing portraits pop up over the city that are done by Muse.
Right.
And we're seeing a rising body count.
Right.
And that's how the episode wraps up. So, like we say, a lot of storyline building. The Daniel Blake stuff is building for something. Like I say, I truly feel he's going to find the end, much like Victor did. As
long as Journey Don't Stop Believing starts playing.
Yeah, well, he could go out to another Jefferson Starship song as well. It's all possible. You're also seeing Wilson Fisk's breakup with his wife, who's still making moves behind the scenes too. Yeah.
Let's not forget Hell Hath No Fury Like a Woman Scorned.
So that's going to get messier as we go.
Yep.
The Muse introduction, that is something that we've been waiting for. And I think now looking at the episodes that we have left for this season, this is a perfect run to do for Muse.
Oh, yeah.
Muse does not need to be here for an entire 9 episodes. Starting at 5, 6, and 7, if you do it just then and then bounce out, that's fine. That's perfect for the character.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Frank Castle coming back and leading the charge of the Netflix Defenders into the MCU. Now, granted, he wasn't a member per se, but he's part of that universe. And now to see him over here is going to kickstart the ball for something else. Now, will we see Frank appear the rest of the season? Possibly. I wouldn't doubt it in some degree.
Right.
Maybe a quick moment here and there.
Right.
But I think this is now going to maybe put him on his path wherever we see him come back with the episode he's going to do. And then who knows if we're going to get a series out of that. Like that's a lot of stuff down the road.
Right.
Short term, though, Daredevil is now coming back to reclaim his city. And it's not going to be for the tame of heart when it gets done.
No, and I looked up who's writing the next episode of Daredevil, and you and I are going to like the episode. I know that. It's a woman by the name of Grainne Godfrey, Grainne, who is, you'll go to her IMDb page, known for being a producer on DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Okay. Wrote an episode of Arrow in 2014, and then wrote 47 episodes of The Flash.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're going to like her work.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of superhero stuff, which is fine. I mean, at this stage, you kind of have to, especially if you're now doing Muse. Because that's going to be the tricky thing they have to pull off with no Inhumans.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to do anything with them to bring them into that limelight. I think they're going to just completely go around it and just be random people in the city.
Yeah.
Maybe people connected to Fisk's campaign. Could be. Or something else completely different. I that's where they're going. But I will say that's probably the safest bet is no Inhumans.
Oh, I just looked up the episode she wrote of Arrow. The Brave and the Bold from season 3 was where with the crossover with Flash.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, we have high hopes.
I'm on board.
I'm definitely on board because I think that we're going to start seeing a lot of things really kick into high gear.
Absolutely.
It's scared to think that we're now almost at the halfway point of
the
season.
Which sucks, but it's also good because we know season 2's coming.
Yeah.
Or season 1.5, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to call it, I think we got a lot more ways to go with this series, and that's going to give us a lot to talk about here on the ODPH, and definitely we want to talk to you about it. So that being said, you heard our takes. Let us hear yours. Hit us up on that hashtag, and let's talk Daredevil Born Again, Season 1, Episode 4, entitled Sic Semper Systema. Let us discuss this, shall we? But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we're talking about one series currently going on right now. We have to give some flowers because one season has ended for a very, very popular animated show here at the ODPH and quite frankly across the board.
Yeah.
It's one of the most modern superhero classics going on the small screen, courtesy of Amazon Prime Video and Amazon Studios, and that is what, Pad?
That would be season 3 of Invincible.
Yes, the series created by Robert Kirkman, Corey Walker, and Ryan Ottley has revolutionized what you would think the modern superhero is. And it has a very high benchmark. It is not conventional by any means.
No.
It is very violent.
Yeah.
They do not shy away from it.
Nope.
So it's something you have to get used to, but you follow along the story of Mark Grayson and his rise to power about being the most powerful superhero in the universe, as it's slated to be coming. But
Yeah.
you now see that his story has definitely taken a lot of deep dives in terms. Stephen Yeun, who you know from The Walking Dead, has voiced the character since the inception of the show. His mom, Debbie Grayson, is voiced by Sandra Oh. His father, Omni-Man, who is the world's greatest superhero at one point, voiced by the one and only J.K. Simmons.
Yep.
Their family dynamic has gone through a lot over the seasons, and to catch
Messy.
up, like I say, it's been a winding road of drama, but this is what we expect from this universe. And as we're going to give our thoughts on season 3, which has just wrapped up, there was a lot going on with that. So,
Yeah.
Pad, you know the deal. The listeners, you know the deal by now. Spoiler-free, countdown, deep dive. So, give me your overall thoughts on this past season of Invincible.
Season 3 was good. You know, I enjoyed it. There were certain high points, there were certain low points with it, and the ending was phenomenal. I know some people didn't feel that way, but I thought it was, in the words of, I think it's Martin Scorsese, absolute cinema. You know, I was like, oh, god damn, watching that finale, and I'm very interested to see where the things go for season 4 and beyond, you know, because I've seen the videos of like, oh, it's the 3 compendium books stacked together, and oh, this is where we're at the end of season 3, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a lot left, you know, so I'm excited to see where it goes, but overall, I enjoyed it. Would I say it's the best season thus far? I don't know if I'd go that far, but I did enjoy it.
It's definitely an enjoyable season. I mean, the one thing about this series is you kind of have an idea what to expect. And it's not a bad thing when we say this, but I think the season was good, but I think the ending is what I'm taking home with me.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the word filler, but I think there's been a lot of stuff that was a lot of building up, a lot of character development for all parties involved.
Yeah.
I think it was a great season, but I was not blown away until we got to the end. Once we got to those last 2 episodes, I really thought everything came together, much like you expect from a season. You build into it. Because a lot of this season was focused on Mark dealing with his growing relationship finally, after they've teased it for forever, with Samantha, a.k.a. Adam Eve, who's voiced by Jillian Jacobs, and finding their role in the world now, because with more threats rising, there's a lot of moving parts unfolding. And I think when you start dealing with that and the villains that come through this season, it really challenges the dynamic of the show. And especially, we've had this go down, especially a strained relationship with Cecil Stedman.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
So that being said, I mean, there's a lot to deep dive into about this, but they've really kind of given us a lot to take home with. But the buzz coming out of the season, honestly, was the finale. I don't think there was anything super coming crazy from the beginning half, but still worth the watch nevertheless.
Yeah.
I fear we're going to jump into spoilers. So, Pat, let's throw that countdown on and let's get going to it. 3, 2, 1. Talk to me.
Like I said, season was good. You know, I enjoyed the start of it. The first episode, I vividly remember, you know, getting a little shocked. I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal. You know, I wasn't expecting it to go, you know, this hard out the gate. And then it kind of petered off a little bit for me. And then it kind of picked up towards the end. And I really dug the end. And you had the whole, you know, Invincible War and everything else going on. That I really dug that. I'm like, okay, this is really cool. You know, and the battles that took place, I enjoyed the relationships. And specifically the one with Eve and Mark, you know, and that whole thing. But it was interesting just because the first 2 seasons were so Omni-Man focused, you know, where it was, you know, his relationship with Mark, and then it was the fallout of his actions at the end of season 1 and into season 2. That this is the first season that like he's not one of the main story focuses. Yes, he does play a part and he does show up, but he's not exactly, you know, the gasoline fuel in the car, so to speak, you know. So I enjoyed it, but it was okay.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think for where they started out with, and it started big, is obviously falling out of the battle with Angstrom. Mark is sitting there just really trying to figure out what he's doing.
Right.
And obviously there's the tension with Eve and then what's going on with the rest of the Guardians and such. So, like I say, there's moving parts happening here.
Yeah.
And I think that they spent a lot of time developing the relationship about what is going to be going down. And I don't think it was a bad thing, mind you, about what it was.
No.
But I think for like where we had to go with it,
it might have been too much time.
It might have been too much. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I did like the season.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, I know that my tone might seem, it doesn't sound like it. There was a couple huge moments that played into it.
Yeah.
But I think that we see a couple moments that stick out here and there, like the death of Rex.
Yeah.
Which was the redeeming moment of, I think, the season. Like, I'd say if you talk about anything before the finales, like, that's the only one that really jumped out to me. That to see the one and only Rex Sloan get killed.
Well, and just the devastation of that entire episode, where it's all the Invincible variants are sent to Earth, and you know they're just absolutely laying waste to the entire planet and all the major cities. And you've got virtually every hero on the planet stepping up to try and stop it, and just one after another getting taken down. That it was just you know, the Rex ones definitely stood out, but for me, going alongside of that was just one after another of just how futile they made it seem. Like, how the hell are they going to get out of this?
Yeah. No, they definitely pushed that line too. So it was a real intense moment to see how this all shapes up. And especially to see that aftermath, because when you have the Invincibles take over.
Yeah.
And they're now fighting everybody on the world. And it really throws everything into wild flux.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing, especially with when Angstrom comes back.
Yeah.
And is now pulling the whole time travel deal, and especially where he's plopped all the Invincibles out of their dimensions and in theirs and tries to double cross.
Yeah.
Like I say, that's where it really picked up, and that's where I really felt the season found its stride is in those 2 final episodes. What have I done? Episode 7, and I thought you'd never shut up. Episode 8.
Yeah.
I think once we got there, this is when the season really felt like we're here.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff with Mark's brother, you know, or stepbrother, whatever you want to call it, like, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. You know, I get it. It's, you know, a little different dynamic than we've seen, you know, the first 2 seasons, you know, but it wasn't really moving the needle for me, you know, just because it was so start and stop.
Well, that's the whole point. And we've said this too in other episodes when we talk about big casts.
Yeah.
To give everybody their perfect amount of time, it's tough.
Yeah.
And Invincible, you have a lot of characters, but like we touched upon, like Nolan, we only saw once this season?
At least.
Yeah, I mean, the You Were My Hero episode with him and Battle Beast.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. And then it's focused on his mother moving on with a new boyfriend, and that was going on. And this one dealt with like the relationships. So they were really trying to push that emotional connection with the audience.
Sure.
Which you know what? By the reaction those last 2 episodes got, you got your wish.
Yeah.
So I understand the build, but like I say, the point to get there, it was worth it in the long run, but it took forever to get there. And that's the only thing that really threw me for a loop. Like I was saying, I wasn't as invested as I usually have been for the show. Not to say it was bad.
I mean, for me personally, it was before episode 7 or 8. I legitimately forgot an episode came out until Saturday. That like, I know the episode drops, you know, at like 3 a.m. Eastern on Thursday morning. But, and I want to say it was like maybe 4 or 5 or 4. It was like episode 4 or 5. I legitimately forgot there was an episode that dropped until Saturday. And that was when somebody in our Nerd Initiative chat mentioned something about the episode. And I was like, oh, right. That came out, you know, this week. I got to go watch that. Like, that's just how for me that, like, because normally, like, Solo Leveling, for example, you know, the dub of that has been coming out on Saturdays, like mid-afternoon or whatever it is. And I watch those as soon as I get the opportunity to. I do not forget to watch one of those at all unless I'm busy. This, though, one episode I legitimately forgot for like 2 days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the only problem, too, is like when it comes out, and especially if you read the comics, you know what to expect a little bit.
Sure.
And I'm going back and doing a reread of them just to connect. Because, like I say, the impact this show has made is tremendous.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the comic itself is the one that has inspired a lot of other books, and especially to make a run from 2003 to, 2018?
Something like that, yeah.
Like, in this day and age, for being an independent book, and like I say, from Image and Skybound.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's saying something.
Yeah, the publication date is January 2003 through February 2018.
Yeah, so
144 issues or 25 volumes.
Yeah, I mean, very few indie books do that. I mean,
yeah.
Hell, you have to deal with renumberings from a lot of the big publishers.
Oh,
which
good Lord.
I understand. Hey, listen, number one sell. I get it.
Yeah.
It's a different market than we grew up reading.
Yeah.
I mean, I mark out when I pick up random numbers like a 78 or a 103 or something like that. Like, that's...
Yeah.
But the fact that this book got there, like I say, is just a testament to the material.
Well, and I think also the other thing that's a credit to the show is just how fucking insane the cast list is. I mean, you mentioned Stephen Young, Sandra Oh, and J.K. Simmons, who are all fantastic actors in it right now. You also alluded to Gillian Jacobs. But let's not forget, Walter Goggins is in this show as well. Mm-hmm. Callista Flockhart, who might not be a name you recognize, but she's married to Harrison Ford, of all people. Zachary Quinto is in this show as well. Grey Griffin, well-known voice actress. Carrie Payton, who... Walking Dead, among many other things. Mark freaking Hamill is in this episode. Mahershala Ali, Clancy Brown, Sterling K. Brown is in this as well. Like Seth Rogen, obviously. Peter freaking Cullen. Optimus Prime is in this show. Tatiana Maslany, is Phil Lamar, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Like, the cast list is insane.
Oh, yeah.
John Hamm, Lauren Cohen, Chad L. Coleman. Ross Marquand is in this as well. I almost forgot him. Aaron Paul was in this most recent season. Like, the cast list is a dream if it was live action.
Oh, completely. No, and I think that's where this show is really connecting, especially you get that all-star talent involved.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question about the quality of this book.
Yeah.
And it'll draw that attention. And like I say, the show this season really hit its point, and that's where you really focus on where we go for those last two episodes. Like, we have the big battle with Angstrom, and especially with the Invincible variants that take over the world, and how that leaves Mark brutally beaten.
Oh, my Lord, yeah.
And then he has to come in contact with an elder Vertramite that is there for one reason and one reason only.
The rematch Walking Dead fans have wanted for years.
Yep, Conquest voiced by the one and only Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And it lives up to expectation because episode 8, and this is where the episode takes everybody home.
Yeah.
Is nothing but a nonstop drag-out fight.
Freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. It is Peter Griffin versus the chicken on steroids. Like, it is literally one of the most violent things you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
And once this happens, it lives up to the expectation because if you're going to top off, like episode 7 could have been the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Angstrom gets defeated, finally double-crossed, and then whoever's helping him, they wind up taking him prisoner.
It could have been like the Thanos at the end of the first Avengers movie.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. But the fact they gave us the all craziness that goes down, it lived up to the expectation, and it does a lot of cool things to set forth the rest of the season because when Mark finally defeats him, and you think he kills him. I mean, granted, it took a tag team of him and Eve and Oliver even to some degree to defeat him.
And Eve had to remove the mental blocks that were in place holding her power back.
Yeah. So she goes fully Phoenix Force, if you wanted to go something crazy like comparison, to do it, and burns every ounce of skin off Conquest's body so Mark can just go nuts on him.
Yep.
And then when they wake up later, Mark's in the hospital. He's kind of trying to put everything together. They have to bury Rex, who died a noble death, and then see about what now goes on into this new world because Angstrom is still alive.
Yep.
He's gone for a while. You find out Cecil pulled some dirty stuff, as he does. Conquest is trapped in an underground vault.
Cecil lied to Mark? What?
Yeah.
That never happens.
Well, I mean, it's a Nick Fury move.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I didn't agree with all the decisions he made throughout the season. I agreed with this one. Mm-hmm. I do not fault him in this one.
No, that's why I say Cecil is a polarizing character, but it works, and Walter Goggins voicing it brings it out to him because it's the greater good deal, because they know that with the Virtrum Empire, like, if we're having to deal with one mark, like, what are we gonna do with Conquest, who's now destroyed the city, and how many millions have died? Like that, and in the world, I should say, not just the city. But you have to deal with that and come to it, and it also changes the dynamic for Mark, who teetered on that fine line of hero and vigilante, because his younger, more alien brother, Oliver, is screaming that he should have killed him.
Yep.
And justifies it. And Mark says at the end of this, yeah, you're right. We have to kill people, so if anybody threatens the family, it's game on. Which is going to change the entire tone of the series. Yeah. Especially when you have to deal with a demon overlord that is trying to corrupt Mark's soul and take him over. And like I say, whenever we get the next season in, it's going to get wild.
Oh, it's coming.
But it lived up to the hype. Like I say, the ending lived up to the hype.
Oh, absolutely.
So all the praise you're hearing about it absolutely does. There's no question of it.
Yeah.
Just the road to get there, I think, is it got a little, I don't want to say steady, but it was too steady to be uncomfortable that you needed to go watch it. Like, there has to become a point that you have to get a hook in.
Yeah.
You can't miss an episode if you're really going to have a hit season. I think they faltered in a couple spots here.
Right.
But I enjoyed the season.
I agree with that.
I enjoyed the season nevertheless. I mean, that's the one thing about it. Final thoughts on Invincible Season 3, Pat?
Like I said, good season. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't necessarily, the smash hit I would have expected. I expected maybe a little bit more, but it was still good, and I enjoyed it.
There's a lot to take home from this, and especially that finale, which you haven't seen yet. It's on Amazon Prime. Definitely go make sure you check it out. And then hit us up on the hashtag ODPH Pod. Invincible Season 3 just wrapped up. Give us your thoughts. Let's talk about it, shall we? But we're going to get one last breakout. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is some unfortunate news, especially if you're like me and grew up watching a certain Cowardly Dog on Cartoon Network in the early 2000s, late 90s. Let me pull up when it aired. It was from where the heck is it? It was from, there it is, Courage the Cowardly. It was the Courage the Cowardly Dog television series, aired on Cartoon Network from 1999 through 2002. Totaled amassed 52 episodes, and unfortunately, the head writer for all 52 of those episodes, David Stephen Cohen, passed away just the other day at 58 years old. The passing was announced by the official Cartoon Network Instagram page, which included an image of him, and the caption noted, quote, "The things we do for love. Thank you, David, for your work on the strangely beautiful world of courage, lovingly adding to our childhood trauma while teaching poignant life lessons. How you brought to life a scared but courageous little dog reminds us that we can do anything, even if we're afraid. Rest well," close quote. If you have never seen Courage the Cowardly Dog, I highly recommend you go check it out. It should be on Max. I say should because David Zaslav and the powers that be are doing some real shitty things these days with animated content on Max. Case in point, Looney Tunes. If you know, you know.
Very sensitive subject right now.
Yeah.
In our opinions.
Yeah. But go watch the show. It is one of the more strange cartoons you'll ever see because it's a little... I say horror, but it's not exactly like, oh my God, it's going to scare your pants off. But it's got a horror aspect to it. But it's funny. It's a little twisted. It's one of the more interesting shows that I think anyone who watched it, it has stuck with you in some way over the years. It's certainly stuck with me. It was one of my favorite shows to watch, especially, when it was airing, during its quote unquote seasons, but then especially in the summertime that, I'm home from school. I got really nothing going on. Flipping the channel on TV. Oh, hey, episode of Courage is on. Let's go ahead and watch that. It was always one of those shows that if it was on, I had no hesitation in putting the remote down and watching the episode. So to David Stephen Cohen, thank you for the work. Thank you for the memorable episodes that you helped craft and create, because it was one of the more memorable shows of my childhood.
Yeah, definitely our condolences going out to his family, friends, and fans all over the world.
Yeah. Then we got to get at some news that I'm surprised it took this long to come to fruition.
Yeah, this one threw me for a loop that we haven't seen this sooner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is the Lego Group and Pokemon Company International are teaming up to bring the world of Pokemon to Lego. So reading from an article on the press.pokemon.com says, quote, today the LEGO Group and the Pokemon Company International announced a new multi-year partnership that will bring LEGO Pokemon to fans for the first time from 2026. Since the debut of the Pokemon franchise, fans have dreamed of becoming Pokemon trainers, and now they can take that experience even further, one brick at a time. This new partnership will bring the world of Pokemon to life in entirely new ways, allowing fans to build beloved Pokemon in LEGO brick form. Julia Golden, Chief Product and Marketing Officer of the LEGO Group, said, quote, we are thrilled to be working with a brand that has such a deep and passionate fan base as Pokemon, partnering to give our joint audiences what they have been asking us for. We strongly believe that through the endless possibilities of LEGO play and the exciting adventures the world of Pokemon brings, this partnership will create a range of new possibilities for trainers and builders alike. Gaku Susai, Chief Product and Experience Officer at the Pokemon Company International, added, quote, the LEGO Group and Pokemon have such strong shared values of imagination, creativity, and fun, making this the perfect partnership to deliver unique, meaningful, and engaging ways for trainers to experience the Pokemon brand. Working with the best-in-class team at the LEGO Group and seeing their dedication and passion for the project has culminated in an innovative and groundbreaking collaboration that will surprise and delight fans. We cannot wait to see both LEGO fans and the Pokemon community's reactions in 2026. Close quote. So, word is this wasn't supposed to come out yet. That a image or a video had leaked a little bit early because 2026 does factor in to be the 30th anniversary of the very first Pokemon games release. No, not blue and red and blue, but red and green, the ones that came out in Japan before red and blue. And it makes sense that you would hold this out for the 30th anniversary, but hey, things happen. This got announced. Like I said, surprised it took this long, but it makes sense. And I will say this, if you happen to run a Lego store in like a mall or a city, wherever, when this drops, get extra security. It's going to get nuts. I've seen the pop-up vending machines for Pokemon cards around the country.
That's ballsy to do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But like there's vending machines. Like this has been a thing in Japan for years, but it's becoming a thing in the U.S. where there are vending machines for cards. And people are getting real combative over who gets to it first and who's up next. So if you manage or run or are in a position that can do this, get some extra security for when this eventually drops because you're going to need it. It's going to get nuts.
Yeah, Lego and Pokemon, like, people go crazy for Pokemon, period, but throw Lego in and how crazy the collecting fan base is there. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be intense.
Makes sense.
I mean, it makes perfect sense, so I can't wait to see this.
And then in movie news and a thing I'm excited for, didn't see it coming, we're getting a direct sequel to the original Cloverfield film.
Now, didn't we already have one, though?
There's been 3. So there was the original Cloverfield. Okay. There was 10 Cloverfield Lane with John Goodman.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And then, that was a spiritual successor. And then you had the Cloverfield Paradox, which was announced a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl. They're like, hey, this is dropping at midnight. So this is according to the folks over at Deadline, and the article reads, quote, Babak Anvari is set to direct a new sequel to Cloverfield, which is reportedly a direct sequel to Matt Reeves' original 2008 film. In a new interview during South by Southwest, the South by Southwest premiere of his latest film, Hallow Road, Anvari teased the new sequel. Quote, so sad that I cannot because everyone on that team is very secretive, which I understand, Anvari told Countdown City Geeks. But whatever happens, just know that hopefully you're going to get something amazing, close quote. Although Anvari didn't disclose any details about the follow-up film, he did express his excitement about the project as, quote, hi. Deadline reported in December 2022 that Anvari was attached to direct the new Cloverfield movie with Joe Barton writing the script. J.J. Abrams producing for Bad Robot, along with Hannah Minghella and John Cohen. Brian Burke, Matt Reeves, and Drew Goddard are also attached as executive producers, close quote. So if you've never seen Cloverfield, the original one, came out in 2008. The marketing campaign for this film was absolutely brilliant because it was a found footage movie that you knew something was going on in the city of New York, but you didn't know what the hell it was.
Yeah, no, first one's brilliant.
You knew it was a monster movie, and this is part of the reason I went to go see it with my brother was we were intrigued enough by the commercials. We wanted to see what the hell the monster looked like. Went and saw one of my favorite films of all time. One of the most brilliant marketing campaigns of all time because they made websites for this thing. They made websites for companies in the universe that didn't even get named. You saw them and they're in the background if you pay attention, but they were never physically named. You know, the main characters, because this was how long ago this was, the main characters got MySpace profile pages that like had photos and details in the whole 9 yards. And it was just honestly one of those movies that I really attached to and loved. This was that when 10 Cloverfield Lane came out, I was like, yes, let's go. They announced Cloverfield Paradox. I was like, absolutely. I'm excited to see where this goes just because you get to the end of the first one and just how it ends. And I realize it came out in 2008, but I really think this is something that if you haven't seen it, you need to go in without.
It's a great ending.
Without knowing the ending. Given how it ends, I'm interested to see where it goes because didn't seem like there's a lot of room for where things go with the ending of the first one. But hey, you never know.
Well, anytime you deal with a monster movie, I
Yeah.
mean, there's endless possibilities to do a sequel.
Yeah.
I just hope they get it right.
Oh, I do too.
That's my only thing
I do
because,
too.
like I say, I purposely skipped 10 Cloverfield because I'm like, I saw the trailers. I was
It's brilliant, if for no other reason than John Goodman's performance.
right. That's the only thing. But I was like, it wasn't enough that I was like, I'm going first day to see it.
Right.
So, I mean, but that's just where I was. This is my personal thing. If it's your jam, it's your jam.
And then in the department of, well, hey, I figured it was coming at some point. Didn't know it was coming now. We got an announcement for Power Wash Simulator 2 coming out 2025.
Oh?
Yeah, so if you haven't played Power Wash Simulator 1, well, it's exactly what the name sounds like. You play a Power Wash employee. You own your own company. You go around, you clean things, you get money for completing certain portions of whatever job you're working on. You build up, you get better power washers, more equipment, more cleaning products or whatever. It's just one of those fun games that at the end of a long, crazy day, you can just kind of sit down, relax, unwind, don't got to worry about too much, and just relax with it. It's fantastic. It's out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, the Xboxes, PC, a whole bunch of stuff. We're releasing late in 2025. It's going to be on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via the Steam, Epic Games Store, and Windows. You can wishlist it now. I will say, if you haven't played the first one, you should play the first one. Doubt you're going to need to play the first one for the second one. But for no other reason, if you should play the first one for the incredible DLC the first one has had, because the DLC is just absolutely insane. Because so the DLC it's got for the first one, they just came out with the Wallace and Gromit special pack. So that like claymation series they've had over the years, they did a whole thing with that. They've done a couple of season ones, winter 2024, they did an ice rink. Halloween, they did a season one for that. They did an entire one for the first Shrek movie, which I got to say, the one level of that is the castle at the start, is like the castle center at the start of the movie. That was a pain in the ass to do. They did a summer one, which was a cruise ship. They did an entire Alice's Adventures, like that whole Alice horror game. They came out like the 2000s. They did one based off of that. Any Warhammer 40,000 fans? They did one for that. Back to the Future fans? Yep, there's a pack for that. SpongeBob fans? Yep, they did the SpongeBob SquarePants pack I played was fucking fantastic. They did one for Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the Midgar special pack. There's a ton just to go with this. So
That's wild.
Oh, it's one of the more relaxing games I've ever played, and it's a ton of fun, and I cannot wait to play the second one when it comes out this year.
Fair enough. Like I say, it looks interesting.
It's fun.
I mean, it's a power wash. A couple quick things before we get into comic picks. From Collider.com.
Mm-hmm.
News I was not expecting to hear anytime soon, but here we are.
Yeah.
Tom Craven, I know, has been going absolutely bananas about this.
He's running down Main Street cheering about this as we speak.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
So according to Collider.com, a new Power Rangers series is coming to Disney+.
Got a hell of a showrunner, too.
Yeah, because according to the article from Collider.com, this new project from Disney Plus and 20th Century TV is with Percy Jackson and the Olympian showrunner Jonathan E. Steinberg and Dan Schatz.
Mm-hmm.
They're set to write and produce as well as serve as showrunners. Hasbro is also attached to produce the action series along with 20th Century or 20th Television. So, yeah, Pad, thoughts on this?
Not entirely surprised. I figured something like that would be coming in some form at some point. Not necessarily didn't expect Disney Plus, though.
Well, that's the thing that's throwing me for a loop.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this for Disney Plus.
Because Power Rangers was on Disney, whatever, XD, whatever it was called at one time, which I know is a touchy subject for Power Rangers fans.
Yeah.
I know it was on Disney at one point, but I did not expect it to be Disney Plus.
Yeah, I wasn't either. So, I mean, high risk, high reward. That's the easiest way I could describe it. I don't know exactly. I mean, the Power Ranger fan base is there.
Yeah.
I know they'll tune in for this. I'm just wondering, like, is this enough to recapture the magic of pop culture?
Right.
That's the only thing with this. I mean, it's great for the fan base. And listen, if you are a diehard like our guy Tom,
hey, good for you.
more power to you.
Yeah.
Like I say, for me, I'm waiting to see. Will I watch it? I'll watch the first episode.
Sure.
Oh yeah, no question about that.
Sure.
And I'll kind of make a judgment call after that. But like I say, this one I'm more curious about than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll have to wait.
I mean, just because it's always been on, at least as far as I know, traditional television. You know, I watched the original series, as I know a lot of folks did. You know, because I was the right target age for that. And then once my brother was born, he was the right target age for 3 seasons. So I've seen 3 of the seasons around 2000, 2002 in that range. You know, so I like what I saw there. You know, I wasn't like the biggest fan, no, but I sat there, I watched it, I enjoyed it. You know, so we'll see how this goes. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Is like, you know, will I watch it? Yeah, maybe. You know, it kind of depends on what I'm shown and what I see. You know, will I make it a priority? Maybe. You know, I'm not ruling it out, but, you know, I'm not necessarily saying, yes, this is going to be a priority right now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to see how it wins it over. So
yeah,
we'll go from there. But hey, listen, kudos if you're a Power Rangers fan.
Yeah.
And that, you know, to that extent, like, listen, I hope it does well. I really do. No shame about that. So that being said, I do have one more announcement just came in from Marvel Comics as we're going on air. So this is always great when it times perfectly.
Hey.
We have a new Fantastic Four book coming this July.
Uh-oh.
So, reading the press release from Marvel directly, quote, this July, Marvel's first family will enter a bold new era of an all-new ongoing comic book series written by Ryan North, who's been doing Fantastic Four quite some time now, One World Under Doom. He's the mastermind behind this.
Oh, yeah.
And drawn by artist Umberto Ramos.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Like, I'm in. The new comic series, which will test the strength of the Fantastic Four as they embark on adventures through time, space, science, and the human condition in a way we have never seen before. Beginning during the events of One World Under Doom, also helmed by North,
right.
The Fantastic Four face Doom in a fight to save the world until it suddenly goes catastrophically wrong, sending them into 4 different eras of Earth's history. Alone and isolated in wildly different periods, Reed, Johnny, Ben, and Sue will have to fight to survive. Their only hope is to reach the Forever Stone, a mass of dense granite that happens to be one of the longest lasting rocks on the planet, which through a combination of obscurity and raw geological luck has stayed both intact and accessible for most of Earth's history. So here is the cover as we see.
Oh, that's nice.
Or at least the artwork from Ramos, which, like, listen, I'm in. That is enough to win me over. I'm a big fan of his work, and let alone Fantastic Four is one of the books like we hear a lot about, and I'm behind that. I mean, granted, I read a ton of books. So,
you do.
So I'm trying to get caught up on it, but the stuff I read from Ryan North is very, very good. So I'm definitely excited to see this out, and like I say, with Umberto doing the artwork, I'm all in. So I can't wait to check that out. Speaking of all in, we got a lot to talk about at the comic shops to take you home with. So, Pat, what you picking up this week?
I'm going to recommend the review I did for Nerd Initiative this week, and that is Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, issue number 16 from Daniel Jose Older. The description of this one reads, the Battle of Iriadu rages on as shocking developments continue to shift the tide of the conflict. A Nihil victory seems all but assured thanks to their overwhelming forces and savage tactics. But will the unexpected arrival of a powerful combatant dash their evil ambitions? The Warden won't give up easily, and he will do anything to defeat the Jedi. The Battle of Iriadu rages on. So the interesting thing with this one is there's a moment in this that personally I have wanted to see for a little while now. If you've been keeping up with the High Republic stuff, and not necessarily everything, but the main books especially, definitely one you've wondered when it's going to happen at some point, because, hey, if you know Star Wars history, you know it doesn't happen and continue indefinitely. So you knew it had to happen at some point. But to see it finally, at least presumably happen, of course, they could pull the rug out from under us in issue 17. But to finally see it, at least on paper, in theory, happen, interesting to see. And I'm interested to see where it goes, because it feels like we're kind of reaching the end game here, as it were. We'll see what happens, though. Yeah,
I mean, this book, I'm with you there. I've started picking it up, too. And I'm curious, like, where the end game is coming for this. Because it kind of feels like they're setting up for it. But, but it's the High Republic. I mean, you can go a lot of different directions.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll have to wait to see about that. For me, though, newsflash, water is wet. Ken has a long list at the comic shop this week. Kicking off my list, this is actually probably throw some people for a loop, but I'm going with a book from Oni Press.
Okay.
Out of Alcatraz, #1. So this is by Christopher Cantwell and Tyler Crook. And this is a very cool story involving an escape from Alcatraz in the 1960s.
Not often done.
Right. So you follow along with 2 convicts that escape and then the adventures that now happen after them. This is gritty. This is in your face. It's unapologetic in dealing with a lot of the social themes of that time.
Yeah.
I think this is a fantastic story. Like, I've heard Eisner buzz already about this, and I see it. I really do. I think this was a fantastic first issue.
Right.
I'm very, very excited to see where we go from this. So kudos to Omnipress on this one. Like, I think a lot of fans are going to be picking this one up word of mouth. Like, it's catching on.
So I had to look it up, but yeah, over the course of Alcatraz's history, 14 separate escape attempts were done involving 36 inmates. None of them ever confirmed to have escaped.
Yeah.
There are 3 inmates. There's a famous story. There's certainly plenty of podcasts that talk about it. You can look them up. But there were 3 inmates from the 1962 escape that they're not really sure what happened to them. So they never confirmed escaped.
And I bet you that they're Frank Morris and Clarence Englund.
Maybe.
So, stay tuned. ... So, yeah, definitely check that one out. Also, now DC Comics Monster Week. Listen, DC is crushing everything right now. I'm going to go on record and say it. Not to say that everybody else is not doing well, but if you think about what they're dropping now with the Absolute Universe and the sales records they're doing out the gate with every issue number 1, big things. No exception this week. Absolute Flash #1, Jeff Lemire, Nick Robles. Amazing book. Really starting the Wally West, excuse me. See, I'm getting so excited. Like, I'm talking super fast and I mess up my words is what happens. But no, the Wally West era of the Absolute Universe kicks off in a big way. A lot of very cool twists and turns with this book. Very impressed with what I saw with this. So really excited, especially now with what else is debuting next week, Absolute Martian Manhunter.
Oh, boy.
And I'm excited for that. Pad's excited for it because who's writing it? Dennis Camp.
Hey, I'm on board.
Yeah, we'll be checking that out next week without question. Speaking of Absolute Universe, the first arc in the new Gotham era wraps up. Absolute Batman #6, Scott Snyder, Nick Dragata. I'm going to go on record. I put this out on social media. I'm waiting to hear back from Scott for confirmation. He's a little busy today.
Yeah, that's understandable.
They do a little homage to a certain scene in Anchorman with Jack Black, and that's how I roll. Mm-hmm. Because Batman takes the fight right to the party animals and Black Mask in a very vicious manner. This is not for the squeamish. I'm going to put it out there, but it's a fantastic. This is some of Scott's best stuff, in my opinion. I think he's really tapped into a side of Bruce Wayne that maybe mainstream could not handle, but this universe, it so fits him. And the artwork by Nick and the team is absolutely wild. So really, really think everybody should check this series out. I'm very impressed. And like I say, we wrap up one arc. We're now teasing more rogues. Ooh. And like I say, the final page is not for the squeamish. I'm just going to put it out there. Also, DC Comics, The Question, All Along the Watchtower, #5. So this has been following Renee Montoya's last stand at the jail watchtower. I'm showing Pad the cover right now.
Oh, interesting. I dig that.
So yeah, friends close, enemies closer. So this is Alex Segura, Cian Tormey, Raul Fernandez, and this is a very dope issue. I think this is probably the strongest issue of the series thus far. I even put that in the review. I said this is absolutely the strongest issue. So definitely go check that out. They're set up for a big ending. Really excited to see how this all wraps up because I don't know what direction we're going to go in. Dipping over to Skybound Entertainment, Energon Universe, Image Comics, G.I. Joe #5, Joshua Williamson, Tom Riley. Listen, just crank it up to 11 and go. This is just the adrenaline rush you get from a Hollywood blockbuster. This is absolutely insane. They're setting up for a monster confrontation at the end of the book. I'm not going to spoil anything, but damn, this book is amazing. Like I say, it's everything you expect from G.I. Joe. They sent the benchmark. Like, this is just nonstop in-your-face action going crazy. So definitely make sure, keep it on your pull list. Also, going back to DC Comics, Detective Comics 1095. Tom Taylor, Mikhail Janin. This is the story centering around Esma and the murder mystery that's going on with the Wayward Teens. This one, though, ties back to the first part of that story arc, and it's Batman confronting Joe Chill.
Oh, Jesus.
That's all I'm going to say about
That's
this
all
one.
you need to say.
Yep.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, but if you know how this story begins right now, and now we get that confrontation, moving parts, Tom Taylor is orchestrating something really big here.
Yeah, he usually does.
Yeah, so this one is hitting on all cylinders. This whole run has been absolutely fantastic. So I think it's getting slept on right now because of how good Absolute Batman has been.
Right.
And obviously with next week coming out, Jim Lee, Jeff Loeb, Batman Hush 2.
Right.
This is falling under the radar. It should not. This is one I think everybody really needs to go check out.
Tom Taylor does not half-ass anything. Tom Taylor is whole ass.
He does. Yeah, he does not miss, folks. He does not miss. Speaking of someone who doesn't miss, Mark Waid, Chris Samney, Batman and Robin Year 1, Number 6. This is just fun. This is just a great series. If you like the Batman animated series style of storytelling, Wade taps into it. Samney's art brings you back there. Like, there's a lot of similarities there.
You have my attention.
Oh, this is, Pat, this is screaming you.
Okay.
If you have not read the series, I know it's out on DC Infinite right now.
Oh, okay.
Catch up. This issue will blow you away, too. Like, this is a very strong issue. I love everything going on with the series. Like, this is what when I think Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, this is it. And it's Mark Waid. And Mark Waid is absolutely incredible as a writer. Also, speaking of incredible writers, Ram V. Still bringing out the absolute wild side of New Genesis in New Gods number 4.
Ooh.
So this is him, Evan Cagle, and guest artist Bernard Chang, bringing you a lot of different looks going on because obviously a new god has appeared on Earth in the form of a child.
Right.
This does not sit well with Highfather. Obviously, Darkseid is not on Apocalypse right now. There is a lot of crazy stuff happening.
Nothing good.
Nothing good. Mr. Miracle and Barda are the only people keeping this kid alive from Orion.
Oh, boy.
Listen, that's all I really need to say.
Oh, boy.
But there's another new god that I believe steals the show of this one, and this has been one of the best issues, I think, of the series thus far. And this has been cool. Like I say, the new gods are an acquired taste, in my opinion.
Sure.
Like I say, this is what Eternals should strive for, in my opinion, like when we do stories, because like this is very complex. There's a lot of building going on, and now we're just getting a lot of action in this issue. So super excited about this one. Also, we talk action, we talk superheroes all the time here. Arguably, and I will say arguably because I think there's a new contender for this title, the best superhero book on the block is Batman Superman World's Finest. Mark Waid, Adrian Gutierrez is the team on this one, and this ties up the early adventure involving Superman, Batman, and Aquaman.
Oh.
So, and the cool thing that's going on here is there's a lot of synergy going on between World's Finest, Aquaman, the regular series, Justice League Unlimited, and this new era of the new DC All In. So there's a lot of parts that are kind of connecting here. I'm liking what I'm seeing. The series, this has been fun. Like, if you want classic superhero storytelling, I mean, Mark Waid hits the mark.
Right.
And I think this one definitely finishes stuff on a good note. I mean, granted, it's kind of a thing when you do a throwback story because you kind of know, like, the consequences are they really going to stick. But I like how they're tying in everybody.
Okay.
So I really think that's a good point there. Last but certainly not least, a book I've been waiting for a year and a half.
Oh, jeez.
In 2023, we had the announcement that Superman was going to have a Black Label series called The Last Days of Lex Luthor.
Yes.
Issue number 2 is finally out.
Oh, jeez.
Mark Waid, Brian Hitch. The story is Lex Luthor is dying, and Superman is trying to save him.
Okay.
This is big level. This is bold. This is everything you expect of an event. They bring out the best of the Superman-Lex dynamic.
Sure.
And there's a lot of stuff that you'll see as a reader. We did episode 1 last night on Turn a Page.
Okay.
Episode 2 lives up to the billing. This is absolutely fantastic. So definitely make sure you pick it up at the shop. And if you need more comic recommendations, nobody does New Comic Book Day quite like Nerd Initiative. 40 reviews on site, I heard today, was the final count.
Oof.
I know we had a couple technical difficulties with the website, but we got them all up from what I'm being told as we're recording. So if you want the picks of the week, you need to go over to Nerd Initiative. You need to go get these books and then let us on social media what you're reading, because let's face it, there's nothing like going to a comic shop on New Comic Book Day and getting the best of the best. That all said, that's it for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.